First Nations in Alberta face hardships, a community shutdown story. Recently, Alberta announced plans for a citizen-led referendum on whether the province should separate from Canada. This significant political move has ignited a heated debate across the province and beyond. As discussions unfold, it's essential to consider the implications for First Nations communities who have historically faced numerous challenges regarding land rights and governance. The referendum raises critical questions about the future of these communities and the potential changes to their legal status. A common misconception surrounding this issue is the belief that First Nations own the land outright. In reality, during any potential separation, the lands classified as Crown land would primarily include military bases, First Nations reserves, and national parks, which together represent about 20% of Alberta's total area. This limited understanding of land ownership can lead to significant misunderstandings during negotiations. If the referendum passes, it would initiate a complex negotiation process akin to a divorce, requiring discussions between the federal government, the province, and First Nations regarding the division of assets and future agreements. There are several potential scenarios for First Nations during this negotiation process. Firstly, they could choose to maintain their current agreements with the Canadian government, which would ensure continuity of their rights and benefits. Alternatively, First Nations could transfer these agreements to the newly formed provincial government, which raises questions about the adequacy of those agreements in protecting their rights. Finally, there is the possibility of negotiating new treaties that could potentially better serve the interests of Indigenous communities. However, these discussions are often overshadowed by political interference and misinformation, making it increasingly vital for Indigenous voices to be included in the dialogue. Corey Morgan, a commentator from the Western Standard, has been vocal about the necessity for change in the current system, which he argues has failed Indigenous communities. He emphasizes that neither the push for Western independence nor the proposed referendum infringes on treaty rights, countering claims from those who benefit from maintaining the status quo. The urgency for reform is underscored by the dire socioeconomic conditions faced by many Indigenous citizens who often live in poverty while leadership appears to thrive under the existing system. The renewed interest in treaty discussions, sparked by the independence movement, challenges the long-held narrative that any changes would violate existing agreements. Many members of the public are unaware of the actual content of treaties, which are generally straightforward documents. They outline reserve boundaries and clarify that Indigenous bands have ceded claims to lands outside those reserves. As long as a referendum does not propose altering these boundaries, it should not conflict with treaty rights. Yet, the complexities of these legal frameworks often lead to confusion and misinterpretation. The situation on many Indigenous reserves is troubling, with alarmingly high rates of crime and poverty. While significant funding increases have been funneled into these communities, they have not translated into improved living conditions for the average Indigenous citizen. Corruption among some leaders exacerbates these issues, leading to a lack of accountability and transparency. This ongoing struggle highlights the need for systemic reforms that prioritize the welfare of everyday citizens over the interests of a select few. One particularly controversial figure in this discussion is Chief Allan Adam of the Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation. He has faced criticism for accepting $55,000 from the American Tides Foundation to oppose oil sands development. This funding raises serious questions about foreign influence in Canadian energy policy and the ethics surrounding such financial support. Adam's public opposition to Alberta's push for independence further complicates the dialogue, as he argues that the province cannot separate without First Nations consent. However, many question his motives, particularly given the financial backing he has received, which some view as a conflict of interest. The ongoing debate surrounding Alberta's potential independence and the role of Indigenous nations is multifaceted. While the treaties themselves remain unchanged, the regulations governing reserves can be modified if there's sufficient political will. Mark Carney, the new leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister, has emphasized the importance of incorporating Indigenous perspectives into any discussions about Alberta's future governance. His leadership is poised to play a pivotal role in shaping policies that prioritize the needs of Indigenous communities, potentially leading to more equitable outcomes for all. Conversely, Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, has also weighed in on the discussions regarding Alberta's independence. He advocates for a focus on economic development and the rights of all Albertans, including Indigenous peoples. His stance reflects the necessity of balancing the diverse perspectives within Alberta while addressing the urgent needs of First Nations communities. The political landscape is indeed complex, with various leaders presenting differing views on how best to address these issues while ensuring that Indigenous voices are heard. As Alberta navigates this political landscape, it is crucial to recognize that Indigenous citizens have much to gain from potential independence. The prospect of new treaties that prioritize their needs and concerns could lead to substantial improvements in their living conditions. The ongoing discussions surrounding independence present an opportunity for meaningful change, provided that Indigenous voices are genuinely included in the negotiations. This potential shift could empower communities and foster greater self-determination. The implications of Alberta's separation discussions extend beyond political boundaries. They touch on the fundamental rights and aspirations of Indigenous peoples. Prioritizing their voices and needs in future negotiations will be essential for ensuring that any outcomes are just and equitable. Engaging in open dialogue among all stakeholders will be crucial in shaping a future that respects the rights, dignity, and aspirations of Indigenous peoples. In conclusion, the current discussions surrounding Alberta's potential separation from Canada highlight the urgent need for reform in Indigenous communities. The situation calls for a concerted effort to prioritize the voices of those most affected by these decisions. As we move forward, it is essential to foster understanding and collaboration among all parties involved. Your thoughts on this topic are welcome. Please share them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content, and join me for our weekly live discussions on Fridays. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.